Recording in progress.
Okay. So what we are talking about is so in the last class I said about slicing, right? So how can you read more than one value? So you can read more than one value by using slicing. But with the help of index, you can able to read only one value. But with the help of slicing, you can able to read more than one value, right? And after that, how can you read values by using for loop? And even I said, how can you read the data by using iterator? So iterator is an object representing a stream of data. Now repeated calls to the iterator's next method returns a successive item in the string. Okay, so you're trying to read it. So how this iterator object is created is by using a function called iter. So this function return iterator object. Once you get the iterator object, so using that iterator object, each time you can read one element from the collection. Each time you can read one element from the collection. Okay, each time you can read one element from the collection by using iterator object. See, what you're trying to do here is, for example, so what I'm doing is I'm trying to create a list with some values here. Now this is a list having how many values here? 5 values are there. So that is 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. 5 values are there in the list. I want to read each time one value. Then I can take the help of which one? Iterator. So to this iterator, you are passing the address of the list. To this iterator, you are passing the address of the list. So what this iterator function will do is, it will return the iterator object. Now, if you want to read each time one value, you just call, you call the next method. So there is a next method of iterator. So that will return the next value. So when I say a dot next, what is the next element in the list? 10. If you want to read a next value, you will say a dot next. So that will return the next element from the list. And what is that here? 20. If you are writing a dot next, so that will return the next element from the list, and that is nothing but 30. If you are writing a dot next, so that will return the next element from the list, and which is nothing but 40. And if you are writing a dot next step, so that will return the next element from the list. And what is the next element from the list? 50. If I'm writing a dot next step, but is it any element to read from the list? No. Then immediately it raises one error. What is it error? Stop iteration error. So generally these iterators are used for non-index based collections. So non-index based collections like set. Set is not index based collection. Okay, set is what is a non-index based collection. For this non-index based collection, you try to read data with the help of iterator. So for non-index based collections, you read the data by using which one? Iterator. Not only that, for example, if you take list, for example, I create one more list, and this is a list contain some 100 values. This list is having how many values here? 100 values are there. So that is from 1 to 100. So this list is having how many values? 100 values are there. Now, each time I want to read one value from the list, I can read it with the help of index. One value, I can read it with the help of index. I can read with the help of for loop. Okay. But it is also provide one more approach of reading it. And what is the approach of reading it? Iterator. So I created iterator object on this list. So what I created iterator object on this list. So using this iterator object, you can read each time one value. But how you read each time one value from this list? By calling one method. So what is a method you are calling to read next method? So each time when you call the next method, it read one value. Each time when you call the next method, it read one value, right? So what you can do is, suppose if I'm writing b dot next, so this will return the next value. So what is the next value in the list? 1. But if I want to read 100 values, I have to call every time which method? Next method. How many times I should call this next method? 100 times. So that will become very complex. To avoid that, you give this iterator to, you give this iterator to for loop. To avoid that, you give this iterator to what here? For loop. You give this iterator to the for loop. Now what is a B here? Iterator. And this iterator is given to which one? For loop. So for loop will do each time it will iterate one value from. Okay, each time it will iterate the value generated by an iterator. And what is the iterator here? B. So this will call internally a next method. So this will call internally a next method, and you are trying to return all the values. So if you want to read more than one value using iterator, now you can give that iterator to which loop? For loop. Instead of calling every time next, you can just give this iterator to which loop? For loop. So iterator is used to perform only read only operations. It means using iterator you can able to read, but using index you can read. Using index you can read, and you can also what? Write. Using slicing you can read as well as you can write. Using index you can read as well as write. Using slicing you can read as well as what? Write. But using iterator you can only read, but you cannot write. It means iterator is read only. Iterator is what here? Read only. You can able to read it using iterator into the from the list, but you cannot able to write inside the list. So there is one more object is there to read, and that object is enumerate. So you can read the content of the list by using which object? Enumerate object. You can read the content of the list by using iterator. You can read the content of any collection by using which one? Enumerate. So what enumerate returns is, so enumerate is similar to iterator only. Enumerate is similar to iterator only. Enumerate is similar to what here? Iterator only. So enumerate is similar to iterator only, but it will return two values. So return enumerate object, and here you have to give iterable must be a sequence, an iterator or some other object which supports iteration. The next method will return. The next method of the iterator written by enumerator returns a tuple containing a counter and the values obtained from the iterating over what? Iterables. So this is not only returning a value obtained from the collection. It is not only written the value obtained from the collection, it is also written what? Counter. It is not only written the value obtained from the collection, it also written what here? Count. So here enumerate. Enumerate it followed by iterable, and what is the value of start is given? 0. So return an enumerate object. An iterable must be a sequence, an iterator or some other object which supports iteration. So the next method of iterator written by enumerate returns a tuple containing two values. One is a count and one more is a value obtained from where? Iterable. But what is a count? The count start from where here? 0. Count start from where here? 0. For example, I have a list of names out there. Okay, assume that. So there is a names list. Okay, there is a names list. So this is a first name, and this is a second name, and this is a third name, and this is a fourth name. So, so there is how many names out there in the list? 4 names out there. Now each time I want to read one name from the list. Okay, and I want to read the name along with the count. I want to read the name along with the count. I want to read the name along with the count. Then I take the help of which one here? Enumerate. So here I create enumerate on the list. So this is called as which list here? Names list. So what will happen when you create enumerate? Okay. So assume that these are the list here. Okay, so this is a list contain some 4 names out there here. So the first name is Naresh, and this is a Suresh is there, and there's one more name which is some Ramesh, and there is a Kishore, right? Now this is given. Now this is which object here? List object, and this list object is given to another object. And what is this object here? Enumerate object. So this is a list object, and this is what here? Enumerate object. So here this enumerate object hold address of which object? List object. Means you are reading the content of the list. You are reading the content of the list by using what? Enumerate. You are reading the content of the list by using enumerate. But what enumerate returns? For example, if I am saying some A equal to E dot next. So next method of enumerate returns 2 values. Next method of enumerate returns 2 values. One is the count. So count start from where? 0, comma. What is the value? Naresh. What is the value it returns? Naresh. Now if I'm saying some E dot, again if I'm writing E dot next, so the count increment with 1 comma, what is the value here? Suresh. Now E dot, again I'm writing next. Now this will return again next value 2 comma. Now what is the next value? Ramesh. And if I'm saying E dot, and again if I'm writing next, Now this will return next value and 3 comma and what is this? 3 comma, what is that? Kishore. But what is the default value start from? What is the default value start from here? 0. So enumerate returns two value. One is a counter and one more is a value obtained from what? List. But iterator returns only what? Value. Iterator returns only value, but enumerate returns a value as well as count. Okay, this count, you can count or you can use this as a access labels. It will try to return the access labels like this access label starts from where here? 0. Okay, it is. So it will return the count and that counter start from where? 0. Now, if you want to change the counter, we can change the counter. At the time of creating enumerate object, you can define from where you want to read it. What is the count here? Now here count start from where? 0. If I say count start from 100, then I start from where? 100. If I say start with some 10, then it will start with what? 10. But what is the default count start from? 0, right? So this will return two values here. One is the count and one more is a yes. So the value written from iterable. For example, there is a course list is there. So you have a list of courses. Now there is a list of courses like this. Okay, so these are list of courses here. Java, Python, C++. And there's a course called which one? Oracle. Now assume that these are the list of courses where there's a Java, Python, C++, and one more is what here? Oracle, right? Now you want to read each time one course along with the count. Or you want to read each course along with the count and count start from where here? 1. Okay, or you want to read each course along with the code, course code. Assume that course code start with 101, 102, 103 and 104. Then how you do that? You just create. What you create here? Enumerate. On which list here? Course list. And then count start from where? 101. Now here 101 is taken as course code or not? Yes. So how can I read it? Now I'm saying e dot some next. So this will return the next. Now 101. What is this here? Java. If I'm saying e dot next, this is 102. And what is it here? Python. And if I'm saying e dot next, so this will return next value. Now 103 and C++. And if I'm saying e dot next, now this will return next value, that is 104. And what is the value here? All right. But is it any value to read now? No, there's no value to read here. Then what it is raised here? Error saying that stop iteration error. Okay, this is stop iteration error. So this will return stop iteration error, right? Because if there's no more values to read, then it returns stop iteration error. So if there is a values, then it return the value obtained from the list. If there is no values, then it just return iteration error, right? Suppose assume that there is one sales list is there. Okay, assume that there is a sales list having sales of some 5 years. It is having a sales of 5 years. 5 years sales are there. 5 years. But here a list is having only sales or not? Yes. But at the time of reading the sales, I want to read along with the year. But is it year is there or not there? Not there. Then what will I do? I'll take the help of which one? Enumerate. So enumerate of sales list, comma. So I just give the start is some 2001. It means now this 10,000 is a sales of which one? 2001. and 40,000 is a sales of 2002 like that. So where I can use this counter, counter as a year. I can take this counter as what year, and the sales which are there in the list is a sales of that particular year. So E dot what is that year next? So E dot, so there is a value next. E dot, there's a value called next. E dot, there's a value called which one? Next. Now this will return the next value. But if you want to read all the values, you can give it to the for loop. For A in, I just give E. Now it will read the rest of the values. And how many values are there? 2004 and 40,000. And 2005 is what again? 50,000. Now you take the help of which one? Enumerate. So you can also use enumerate to read content of the collection. Like that can be a list, that can be a set, or it can be a dictionary. It can be any type. It can be any type. You can able to read the content. It can be any type where you can read the content here, right? So these are the different ways in which you can read content of the list. These are the different approaches out there by using which you can read the content of list. I said you can read the content of the list by using index. You can read the content of the list using slicing. You can read the content of the list using for loop. You can read the content of the list using iterator. You can read the content of the list by using enumerate. So these are different approaches out there for reading the content of a list or any sequence. You can use all these approaches. Any sequence you can use all these approaches. And list is a mutable. List is a mutable collection. List is a mutable collection. And there are some mutable methods out there. So these are the mutable methods of which one here? List. So list is a mutable collection. List is a mutable collection. After creating list, okay, so changes can be done. Changes can be done using which methods? Mutable methods of which one here? List. After creating list, if you want to do any changes, after creating list, if you want to do any changes, you can do the changes by using which methods? Mutable methods of which one? List. After creating it, you can do the changes by using mutable methods of what here? List. So list is a mutable collection. After creating list, changes can be done using mutable methods of list. For example, I created one list. I created one list, list one equal to empty square brackets. Now this empty square brackets represent which list? Empty list. Now list is created or not? Yes. But list is empty or not? Yes. Now I want to add the values. Now the list is empty now. The list is empty now. Now what I want to do is I want to add the values into the list. After creation, I want to add the values into the list. After creation, but at the time of creation of list, are you define any values in the list? No. At the time of creation of list, are you define any values in the list? No, there's no values in the list. Now after creating the list, I want to add the values. I want to add the values. Then how can I add the values after creating the list? For that, now first one is adding values. Adding values within list. Adding values within list. How can you add the values within list after creating, right? Okay, adding values within the list. So how can you add the values within the list here, right? You can add the values within the list, right? You can add the values within the list. Yes, you can add the values within the list, right? It is maintain pointer only here. Without maintaining this, how? Without maintaining the position, how it will return value here? What Ravindra? Without maintaining the position, how it will return the value? Okay, how it knows where it is? I should remember, right? Yes. So adding values within the list, you can add the values within the list by using different approaches. So Python is easy. Don't make it complex here. Okay. Yes. Right. Yes. Adding values within the list. So without maintaining position, how it will read it? So you have to think about that, right? Yes. So adding values within the list can be done by using different approaches. So different approaches are there. And what are these different approaches you find here? Okay. So there is a method. So there is a method called, now all these are mutable methods of the list here. Now, if you see the mutable methods of the list, now there is a method called what here? Append. There is a method called which one? Append. So what is the first method you have is append. What this append method will do is, it will add the value, append the X to the end of the sequence. Sequence is nothing but what here? List. Okay, sequence is nothing but what here? List. It just add the value. Append means it just add the value at the end of the sequence, right? So append X to the end of the sequence. Append X to the end of the sequence, right? So it will add one value at the end. S means here sequence. So I created one empty list, right? Suppose I created one empty list. Now I want to add the values. How can I add the values? I'll say list one dot append 10. I'm saying list one dot append 20. So how many values are added here? Two values. Now the first value is 10 and second value is 20. List one dot append 30. So there is a value added. What is the value added here? 30. Now using append, you can able to add only one value. Using append, you can able to add how many values? Only one value, but you cannot able to add more than one value. If I'm saying list one dot append, if I'm writing 50 comma 60, now this gives what? Error, right? This gives an error. Now append it takes exactly how many values? One value. Append it takes exactly only one value, but not more than one value. Append it takes exactly one value. So you can add only one value. You cannot able to add more than one value using append. If you are trying to add more than one value using append, then immediately it gives what? Error, saying that append method takes exactly only one value, but not more than one value, right? So that is how you are trying to do it. Now this is empty list and you are trying to append how many values? 4 values. For example, if the question is asked like this, if the question is asked like this, write a program to read scores of n players. Write a program to read the scores of n players and display. I want to read the scores of how many players? N players. And then I want to display it. I want to read the scores of n players. Then I want to display it. I want to read the scores of how many players? N players score, I want to read it. I want to read the scores of n players. Now, where you are storing this players details? You are storing this players details within one list. You are storing this player's details within one list, right? You are storing this player's details within one list. Okay, you are storing this player's details within one list, and then you keep on reading all those values one by one. But how many players details you should read? 10 players details. Can we add directly? Or this is what I said, no, after creation here, not at the time of creation. After creation, I said, and that is wrong. You are written within the parenthesis. List is not within parenthesis. List is within the square bracket. Everything is wrong. Everything is wrong. अब लिस्ट कैसे क्रिएट करते वो भी नहीं मालूम. कैसे क्रिएट करे यार इधर? How we created list within the square bracket parenthesis. What year Anshul? Or मैं क्या बोला यार? After creating list. After creating, not at the time of mutable. List is a mutable collection. After creating list, changes can be done using mutable methods of list after creation, not at the time of creation. क्या यार? किधर रहते यार? हाँ? किधर रहते आप? हाँ? After creation बोले तो क्या है? जब क्रिएट करते, जब स्टोर करते, बाद में स्टोर करते यार. अरे क्या यार आप? वो क्रिएशन भी रॉन्ग है. पैरेंथेसिस में लिख दिए, खत्म. लाइक दिस, विल इट रिप्लेस द वैल्यूज? क्या रिप्लेस करता है यार? इधर एक लिस्ट क्रिएट करे, ये लिस्ट ही नहीं होता. व्हाट रिप्लेसिंग यार? व्हाट यू आर रिप्लेसिंग? व्हाट यू आर रिप्लेसिंग यार? लिस्ट वन इक्वल टू दिस दिए, लिस्ट वन इक्वल टू दिस दिए. क्या हुआ? दो लिस्ट क्रिएट हुए. ये लिस्ट वन जो है ना वो डिलीट हो गया, नया लिस्ट बना दिया. क्या है उसमें? अरे सेम वेरिएबल दे दिया यार उन्होंने. पुराना लिस्ट डिलीट होता, नया लिस्ट आ जाता. क्या उसमें एरर नहीं आता? सॉरी, व्हाट यू गॉट इट यार? बहुत जल्दी सोच लिए यार. क्या यार आप इतने? सी व्हेन आई सेड लिस्ट इज अ म्यूटेबल कलेक्शन, मैं बोला भी, एग्जांपल भी दे दिया. किधर रहते? सुनना यार. आई सेड आफ्टर क्रिएशन ऑफ लिस्ट. यहाँ पे लिस्ट जब क्रिएट करे, इसके अंदर वैल्यूज है क्या? नहीं है ना. लिस्ट क्रिएट करने के बाद, लिस्ट क्रिएट करने के बाद बोला मैं. क्रिएट करने के बाद क्या करना है? ऐड करना है. तो मेरे को नहीं मालूम यार, जब लिस्ट क्रिएट करूँ ना, मेरे को नहीं मालूम कितने वैल्यू स्टोर करना, नहीं मालूम. तो कैसे क्रिएट करते? एम्प्टी क्रिएट करते. बाद में कितने वैल्यूज होना आप ऐड करते, बस उतना है. अरे क्या यार आप लोग, इन्हीं लोग. ओके, राइट. देन व्हाट इज दिस? हियर इज क्या बोल रहा हूँ यार मैं? आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग वन प्रोग्राम. Write a program to read scores of how many players, n players, and then what? Display. So you need to create one list, because I need to add the details of how many players, n players. N players means how many players details you are adding. You know or you don't know? Don't know. You are trying to input those values at runtime, dynamic. You are trying to input those values at what? Runtime. Runtime is what here? Dynamic. You are trying to input those values at runtime. Runtime is nothing but dynamically you are adding the values. You are adding the values dynamically means after creation. You are adding the values after creation, right? So at the time of creation, no values are there. Now you should read details of how many players, n players. You are asking integer of input, how many player details, right? How many players, whatever message you want to display, how many players score you want to input how many players score. Okay, you want to input how many players score. If I enter the value 5, I should add how many values? 5 values. If I enter value of n is 10, I should add how many values? 10 values. If I enter the value of n is 20, then I should add how many values? 20 values, right? But each time we should read one value. But each time we should read one value and we should add it, right? So for this, I'm using what here? For loop. So for in range of n. So what is the n here? Starter, stopper, stop, right? Suppose if the value of n is 3, then this range will generate how many values? 3 values. And this for loop is executed how many times? 3 times. Each time you read one score. Integer of input enter what here? Score. Input enter score. Input the score. And this score you are adding to which one? Scores list. How can you add these scores to the scores list? By saying scores dot append. What you are adding? Score. Now this score is added to which one? Scores. But how you are adding this score to scores? By using a method called which one? Append. By using one method called which one? Append. You are using append method to add this score to what here? Scores, right? So this for loop is executed how many times? 3 times. Then how many scores are added to the list? 3 scores. Then after that you print. So after that you print, what you print? List. Now once I run this, now input how many player scores. Now I want to input the scores of 3 players, right? So this is a first player, this is second player, and this is what here? Third player. Now your list is having how many values? 3 values. Suppose if I enter again, input the details of how many. Now I want to input 5 players. Now this is a first player, and this is a second player, this is a third player, this is a fourth player, and this is what here? Fifth player, right? Now your list is having how many players details? 5 players details. Now dynamically means after creating list, if you want to add it, you take the help of which method? Append method. After creating list, if you want to add it, then you take the help of which method? Append method. But using append, you can able to add how many values? Only one value. Using append, you can able to add how many values? You can able to add only one value, but not more than one value. Right. Suppose write a program again, adding dynamically, write a program to read name, comma, n subject marks of student, one student, and calculate what? Total, and one more is which one? Average. Write a program to read name and how many subject marks? N subject marks of student, and calculate total and average. You have to calculate total and average. You have to calculate it. So you have to read the marks of how many students? N students. But first you are reading which one? Name. So input, enter what here? Name. enter the name, and next you should enter how many subjects? N subjects. So n equal to integer of input, enter, enter what? How many? You want to read how many? Subject marks. How many subjects? Marks, right? Then you are reading all these marks and you are storing into one list. But this list is what here? Empty. So in this list of marks, you should add how many subject marks? N subject marks. I should add how many subject marks? N subject marks. But is it marks is empty or not? Yes. So should add N subject marks. Then I need to input how many values? N values. Then I try to repeat this input how many times? N times. For IN, range of, what is that? N. Okay. Suppose if the value of N is, 2, you are reading how many subject marks? 2 subject marks, because this range will generate how many values? 2 values. It means this for loop is executed how many times? 2 times. Okay, now each time you read the marks. So M equal to integer, input enter what here? Marks. And this you are adding to which one? Marks dot append. What you are trying to append? Marks. So you are trying to append marks to which list here? Marks list. You are append marks to which list here? Marks list, by using a method called which one? Append. So M is a marks which you are adding to the marks by using a method called which one? Append. Append is a method. What is the name of the method you are using? Append. Now what you have to calculate? You have to calculate which one? Total. Total means I should add all the values of list or not? Yes. So total, you can simply use one function called sum. If you want to add the values of any iterable, if you want to add values of iterable, you can use a function called which one? Sum. Sum of, what is the name of this iterable or list? Marks. Then next I'm saying average equal to total by n. So total by n. N is nothing but number of subjects. So then you'll get the average. Then print format. Now this is a name. I just display the name of the student. Format. So I'm trying to display the marks. So this is a list called marks here. And print format. I'm printing which one here? Total marks. So I just print the value of total. I print the value of total. So print format. So you are trying to print which one here? Average. Then you are displaying the average with how many decimal places? 2 decimal places, right? Now once you run this, now enter name. Now this is the name of the student. How many subjects? Some 3 subjects. And this is the first subject, second subject, and third subject. Now you can see the name of the student is Naresh. And these are the marks. And what is the total? 220. And what is the average? 73.33. 73.33, right? So first what you enter here? Name. Then after that you are asking how many subject marks. If I enter 2, then you need to add how many values into this list? 2 values. If I enter 3, then you should add how many values into this list? 3 values. If I enter 5, then I should enter how many values into this list? 5 values. Then to input n values, you put this input statement within the for loop, right? So this for loop is repeated how many times here? N times, because this range will generate how many values? N values. If the range generate 5 values, this for loop is executed how many times? 5 times. If the range generate 10 values, this for loop is executed how many times? 10 times. It means you are adding how many values into the list? N values. After adding n values, you are trying to add all the values by using one predefined function called sum. And sum it followed by collection. What is the name of the collection here? Marks. It will add all the values of the marks and it assign to a variable total. After that, you are calculating the average by saying total by n and display the name and display the marks, display the total marks. And then next one is average. You are trying to display which one? Average, right? Right. So this is how it is. How can you add the values during runtime or after creation of list? If you want to add the values, you are using a method called which one? Append. But using append, you can able to add how many values? One value only. Using append, you can able to add how many values? Only one value, but not more than one value. Only one value can add it. Now see here, list programs. Now Python program to interchange the first and last element in a list. Python program to swap. See here, all these programs will do it. Python program to find the sum of elements in the list. Python program to multiply all the numbers in the list. Python program, yes, see here. So Python program to find the largest number in a list. Python program to find the second largest number in the list. Python program to find n largest elements in the list. Python program to print even numbers in the list. We did even numbers in the list. Python program to print odd numbers in the list. Python program to print all even numbers in a given range. Okay, Python program to print all odd numbers in the given range. And Python program to print positive numbers in the list. Program to print negative numbers in the list. There is a list which contain positive numbers as well as what? Negative numbers. I want to print positive numbers from the list. I want to read negative numbers from what? List. I want to read even numbers from the list. I want to read odd numbers from the list. I want to print sum of all the numbers of the list. I want to print the product of all the elements from the list. All these are logical programs related with reading. For example, you have a list, right? Now, this is a list which contain, okay, suppose assume that this is a list which contains some random numbers, right? So 8, 9, 12, so 15, 18, okay, 19, 21, 22, 24, 27, like this. Some values are there. Okay, some random values are there in the list. Okay, assume that these are random values. Okay, now from this, I want to read which elements. I want to read which numbers, even numbers. Read even numbers. Read even numbers from list. How can I read even numbers? For every time you read one value from list. For n in, what is this? List 1. Every time you are reading one value from the list. What is the first value in the list? 1. If n mod 2 double equal to what? 0, then print what? N. Now this will read which values from the list? Even numbers. This will read only even numbers from the list. Now if you want in the same line, so at the end don't insert new line. So this will extract only even numbers. Now suppose I want to read which numbers? Odd numbers from list. I want to read odd numbers from list. So I just insert one new line. For n in, what is this again? List 1. Here I'll say for if n mod 2 is not equal to what? 0, then print what is that? N. So print n. Now this will read which numbers from the list? Odd numbers from the list. We read even numbers from the list. We read what? Odd numbers from the list. Suppose there is a list. Assume that there is a list called list 2, which is having 1, 2, 3, minus 4, 5, and minus 6. Okay, 7, 8, 9. There is a minus 10. There is a minus 3 and minus 2 and minus 1. From this list, I want to read which values? Positive values. I want to read which values? Positive values from the list. Read which numbers? Positive numbers from where? List. So every time you read one value from the list for n in, what is this here? List 2. If n is greater than what? 0, then print which value? N value. This will read which values from the list? Positive values. Now this is how you to practice. Now which numbers are read from the list? Positive numbers. I want to read what numbers I want to read from the list? Read which numbers? Negative numbers. Negative numbers from where? List. Then I'll say print insert one new line for n in what here? List 2. If n is less than what? 0. If n is less than 0, print what? N value. Now this will read which numbers from the list? Negative numbers. So read negative numbers from the list. Okay, read negative numbers from the list. Now there is a list. Assume that. See how many programs. Each one is one pro. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 programs we write here in one only. If you sit for 5 minutes, you will do 10 to 20 programs. So write it. Now read or print. Print. What is this here? What is the question is asked? Print. Program to print. Multiply all the numbers in the list. Multiply all numbers in the list. Multiply all the numbers. All the numbers in what here? List. So there is a list. There is a list contain values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to multiply all the values in the list. Then result is 1. You should not take the result as what? 0. If you take result as 0, the product becomes what? 0 only. Then what do you do it? You read each time one value from the list. So what is this list 3? Then result equal to result into what? N. So each time you are reading one value, 1. 1 into 1 is what? 1. Then what is the next value? 2. 1 into 2 is what? 2. What is the next value? 3. And 2 into 3 is what? 6. What is the next value? 4. 6 into 4 is what? 24. What is the next value? 5. And 24 into 5, some 120 like that. So what is the result now? This is a result. So result is printed. And what is the result is printed? 120. So that is multiplying all the values in the what? List. Every time you are reading one value, reading, how many ways can you read the values? You can read the values using index. You can read the values using slicing. You can read the values using for loop. You can read the values using iterator. You can read the values using enumerate. So this is how you need to practice. Until you don't practice, only demo classes only. Okay, every day one demo class. Every day one new Python class only. Okay, yes. If you want to get the job, you have to practice. If you don't practice, you don't get the job. If you don't write a program, because software programmer, software engineer means not sitting idle. कंपनी में जाके खाली नहीं बैठते. You have to code it. कोड लिखना बोले तो वहां पे ऑनलाइन ऑफलाइन कुछ नहीं रहता है. You have to write it. Nobody will tell you write like this. Okay, you have to write it. Until you don't write, now here you are sitting idle, no problem. You are not writing, you are not practicing, then but you want a job, and that job also high package. पहले ही एक 12 लाख होना. You want very good package, but what is the stuff you have? आपका ने क्या है देने के लिए? You have anything? Nothing. If I ask you one question, right, you cannot write it. Simple program also will not do now. We have done so many programs. Till now 90 programs we did. 90 programs we have completed, right? A pattern program लिखो बोलते लिखते क्या? नहीं लिखते. We have practiced so many patterns. Yes or no? different types of patterns we have seen, different logical programs we have seen. 90 programs we did, but how many programs you did? बाद में बोलते कुछ नहीं आया, जॉब नहीं मिल रहा. क्यों मिलता है यार? Why you get the job? You don't get it because you have to practice. If you don't practice, no use. Okay, now if you don't practice, there's no use of. You should not come to the software industry. You have to go for some other industry. You don't want to code, then go to some other industry where there's no coding, only sitting. Yes, only sitting job will be there. No coding job will be there, right? So software engineer means you have to do coding. If you don't know how to write code, how to write program, waste. I don't know how many of you install Python also, right? Yes. But are very good, no problem. Yes. Anyway, this is reading. Now, so many out there. So many programs out there. Here, I can put all these programs in one notepad. I can tell you I'll teach all these programs, but nobody will teach all these programs. A person said, I'll teach 400 programs. No, only one program. Remaining, you do it. And not write one program also. Logic, no logical, no patterns, nothing. List means one day. Append, delete, insert, over. So nobody will tell you these many approaches of reading, like iterate or enumerate. No, nobody will teach all these things. Getting or not? Okay, just add करना, लेके आना, बस उतना है. दो ही रहता, ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं रहता यार. Okay, but boost up will be there. I'll teach you that this nothing is there. Empty. Okay, right. But anyway, please try to practice. If you practice, you'll get more knowledge. Otherwise, no. See, I worried about taking problem from HackerRank. If I want to take problem in HackerRank, it is a test for me only. कि बोले तो आप कुछ practice ही नहीं कर रहे. Then I don't want to take any problem from HackerRank. So no, if you practice it, then I can tell you the problems in HackerRank. If not, then I cannot tell you programs in HackerRank and CodeChef. Okay? अगर practice करे तो मैं वो problems ले लेता हूँ. अगर practice नहीं करे तो मैं नहीं लेता हूँ वो problems. We'll just have a regular classes and regular programs. Khatam. Okay, HackerRank problems. If I want to take, you have to practice, because you have to understand how to write a logic. Until you don't understand how to write a logic, then I cannot move to HackerRank. क्यों बोले तो आप लोग का फेसेस देखे तो मेरे को गुस्सा आता. ओके, क्यों बोले तो कुछ समझ में नहीं आता. If I open HackerRank, if I take one problem and if I start doing it right, आपका फेसेस देखे तो मेरे को, okay, I should control myself, because you are not practicing anything. You have to practice, right? So many programs are there, but what is the use? There's no use, right? Okay, yes. So use means you have to do it here. Okay, no problem. So this is adding how many values here? One value. Adding how many values? Only one value. That one value you can add it by using which one? Append. But if you want to add more than one value, append more than one value. Append more than one value. How can you append more than one value? Using which operator? Slicing operator. Append more than one value using slicing operator. You can append it. You can append more than one value But how you can append more than one value? With the help of slicing. Can append more than one value with the help of what here? Slicing. Okay, right? So what is the syntax of this? Now the syntax is, now this is a syntax. So append means where it will be adding at the end, right? Append means at the end. Okay, append means at the end. And if you see the syntax of this, you just give what name here? List name. Or the same thing you can call it as sequence name or list name. So you are adding at the end. End means you should know end index. You should know what last index. But how can I get the last index? Length of. Length of which one here? List. Colon. So here starting index and stop index both must be same. Length of. Length of. What is it again? List name. But you don't give any step value. Okay. Equal to. Now you should assign how many values? More than one value. And that more than one value you put as one iterable. That more than one value you put as one iterable, right? So append more than one value using which operator? Slice operator. Length of the list. For example, there is a list. Now I'm trying to put the values at the time of creation, right? How many values are there in the list? Two values. So there are two values are there in the list. After creating the list, I want to add some more values, but I want to add three more values into the list. But I cannot add three values at a time using append. But if I want to add three values at a time, then I take the help of which one? Slicing. Now L1 of length of list 1. What is the length of the list 1? How many values are there in the list 1? Two values. Means you are adding from which position? 2 onwards. 0, 1, you are adding from where? 2 onwards. Length of list 1 colon length of list 1 equal to how many values you want to add? 3 values. Then I just give those 3 values as one list. I give those 3 values as one list. I want to add 30, 40, and what is it? 50. Now this time your list is with total how many values? 5 values. How many values you added into the list? 3 more values. If you want to add some 10 values, then I'll say list 1 of length of list 1 colon length of list 1. What is the length of list 1? 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You are adding from which place onwards? 5th place equal to. I want to add how many values? 5 values. Now I want to add 60 comma 110. Okay, 60 comma 105 comma 10. So what is a 60 here? Start value. And what is 105 here? Stop value. And what is 10 here? Step value. So this will generate 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Now you are adding how many values to this list? 5 values. Now you can see here. Now this is a list contain 5 more values added or not? Yes. If you want to add more than one value, you take the help of. If you want to add more than one value, you take the help of which one? Slicing. If you want to add more than one value, you take the help of which one? Slicing. Because append method is able to add only one value, and to add multiple values, you have to use the method called which one? Append. See, any collection you are working with it, Any collection you are working, you should know some operations on the collection, right? What operation you should know on the collection, like how to add it, how to add the values in the collection, how to remove values from the collection, okay, how to read values from the collection, and how to replace values. Replace means what here? Update. Now you should know these operations because in real time, in project, you do these operations on the collection. You do these operations on the collection, right? Okay. What operations you do it? Adding values into the collection, removing values from the collection, reading values from the collection, and updating values of collection. And these are called which operations? CRUD operations. These operations are called which operation? CRUD. For example, you take your phone book. What do you do it in your phone book? Add phone, add contact, read contact, update contact, delete contact. How many operations you are doing? 4. If you take shopping cart is there. If shopping cart is a collection, what do you do it? Add the product, update the product, remove the product, and list all the products. So if you take all these collections, you are doing how many operations? You are doing how many operations on this collection? 4 operations. And these 4 operations, you call it as which operations? CRUD operations, like inserting, reading, updating, and deleting. So you should know these operations on any collection, right? So this is adding. Append is a method for adding, and slicing is for adding more than one value. Then how to remove or how to update? Updating or what? Replacing values of a list. How can you replace the values? I want to update. I want to update the values, or I want to replace the values. And this replacing values, replacing or updating of values are done using now different approaches are there. Okay, using first one is using index, and second one is using which one? Slicing. So using index, you can replace only one value. Using index, you can able to replace only one value. Yes, same. Yes. Subrat. Yes, same. This is slicing only. No, second one is also slicing. Or second one is also slicing here. First one is slicing. Second is also slicing. Colon diye to slicing hai here. If you don't give, that is index. You're saying colon and you're not giving stop. If you don't give the stop, it will keep on adding it, right? Both are slicing on. Instead of slicing, kya hai here? Instead of slicing of, what is this? Can we use? This is also slicing only here. Are slicing nahi seekhe kya? That's the reason I'll tell you. Please read. You people will not read. Okay, every class is new class. That is a problem. And then again you ask, you tell, if I'm asking questions, sir is what? गुस्सा हो रहा बोलते आप गुस्सा होते नहीं होते बोलो यार अभी देखो लिस्ट वन ऑफ देखो लेंथ ऑफ लिस्ट वन कोलन दिया कोलन बोले तो स्लाइसिंग और नॉट यस इफ यू डोंट गिव अ कोलन देन इट इज इंडेक्स एक ही वैल्यू दिए तो इंडेक्स स्लाइसिंग सिंटैक्स वी हैव सीन ना कितने सिंटैक्सेस बोला मैं बहुत सारे सिंटैक्सेस बोला स्लाइसिंग के अंदर सही है ना यार किसका प्रॉब्लम है यार बोलो यार आप ही पढ़ना बोलो तुम आई से ऑलवेज read so number of things slicing देखो यार स्लाइसिंग बताया ना पूरा, एक क्लास पूरा स्लाइसिंग है। अभी स्लाइसिंग सिंटैक्स बताया देखो, स्लाइसिंग सिंटैक्स, ओके। एंड दिस सिंटैक्स आई डिवाइडेड, देखो खाली कोलन कोलन दिए तो क्या होता, हाँ, खाली ऐसे दिए तो क्या होता, हाँ, फिर ऐसे दिए तो क्या होता, देखो यार, ऐसा ना, हाँ, इफ यू गिव ओनली स्टार्ट व्हाट विल हैपन, दिया मैं ये पूरा क्या है, स्लाइसिंग ही है ना। अरे एनीवे नो प्रॉब्लम, बट यू हैव टू रीड यार। अभी स्टार्टिंग में बहुत सारे यू हैव टू लर्न। यू वांट टू बिकम अ डेटा साइंटिस्ट, यस और नो, क्या होते हैं यार, नहीं हो सकते। डेटा साइंटिस्ट बोलो, साइंस, साइंस डेटा साइंटिस्ट, साइंटिस्ट कब बनते हैं यार, दिमाग रहे तो, हाँ? दिमाग नहीं रहे तो साइंटिस्ट क्या बनते क्या, साइंटिस्ट ऐसे ही नहीं बनते यार। यू वांट टू बिकम अ डेटा साइंटिस्ट, ओके, राइट, you have to practice, that is what I'm telling you. Please don't think in some other way. uh, you ask your admin, because I don't have any recordings here, because the way how you log in the same way I log in and teach, that's it. My job is only teaching here. I don't do any recording. So recording is done by Naresh Reddy people, okay. Yes, please you ask your admin, right? So using index we can replace, please practice, replace one value. अभी आगे 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 बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा आपको, प्रैक्टिस ना करे तो। So using slicing we can replace how many values, more than one value, okay. Yes, using slicing we can replace more than one value. Using index you can replace only one value. Always slice means bulk, index बोलो तो एक ही है, slice बोलो तो bulk है, because you give a starting index as well as what, stop index. इंडेक्स बोले तो एक ही रहता, स्लाइस बोले तो मल्टीपल इंडेक्सेस, so bulk operations you can do on by using which one, slicing, right? Anyway we'll talk about this like updating or replacing values, but not today, but tomorrow. Please practice, okay. मैं परसों बोल रहा था 2 दिन हॉलीडेज है ना, I said please practice 2 दिन, क्या कर रहे हैं, रमजान मनाए क्या आप लोग, व्हाट ईयर, सर नो, हाँ, गांव को जाके आ गए बस उतना। Tomorrow, right? Thank you. ऐड बोल के कुछ नहीं है यार,